is a grand strategy? You've probably seen it in papers and books while studying, but do you know what it is? Scholars broadly agree on some aspects about it, such as being long-term and that it is concerned with all spheres of statecraft, military, diplomatic, economic. However, the specific characteristics are not so clear. There is no single concept of grand strategy, but in this, the author SILOVE helps us to understand grand strategy through three concepts. They are grand plans, grand principles, and grand behavior. In this video, we are going to talk about each of them. So first, grand plans. What is this? In this concept, we have the idea that grand strategy is a detailed plan. One example that we can extract from the paper Beyond the Buzzword, The Three Meaning of Grand Strategy by SILOVE is the quote from Peter D. Fever, in which he says, "Grand strategy refers to the collection of plans and policies that comprise the state's deliberate effort to harness political, military, diplomatic, and economic tools together to advance that state's national interest. It involves purposive action, what leaders think and want." SILOVE also points out one example for it in real life, the notion of a U.S. national security strategy document. This document should address the interests, goals, policies, and how the government will use the elements of national power to achieve those goals. Now let's move on to grand strategy as an organizing principle. What is the difference between a principle and a plan? The difference is that a plan is much more detailed than a principle. Grand strategy as an organizing principle can be seen in two types of work. First, we have work that focus on the ideas of individual leaders. For example, Charles N. Addo says that U.S. President John Quincy Adams believed that security could be achieved through unity inside the country and neutrality in foreign affairs. Even though this wasn't a formulated plan, it serves as organizing principles that guided the president's decisions. We also have a second type of work that uses the term grand strategy as an organizing principle. This type is the prescriptive literature on grand strategy. It mainly focuses on orienting principles that some believe should guide U.S. foreign policy. For example, isolationism and selective engagement, which we talked about in this video on the channel, can be seen as grand strategies of the U.S. They represent the major purpose of the country and the political and military instruments that are most likely to be used. So how can we demonstrate the existence of an organizing principle? We can do it in two ways. First, we could focus on evidence of a person's ideas. We could look at private and public correspondence of diplomats, admirals, generals, for example. In this way, we gather evidence of the assumptions and purposes of an individual to demonstrate that there was an organizing principle. The second way would be we could look at the activities of the individual or the state to demonstrate that there was an organizing principle. In this, we would observe the activities of an individual, for example, and try to translate it into an organizing principle through those observations. Grand strategy can also be used to refer to a pattern of behavior. In this, the pattern of behavior is itself the grand strategy. Some authors believe that all states have grand strategies, even if it is unconsciously. It is possible to notice a pattern, a consistency in behavior over time. Grand strategy as a grand behavior has three approaches to the issue of intentionality. In the first approach, the authors don't question if the pattern of behavior was produced through a grand principle or plan. In the second approach, scholars understand the grand strategy could be a plan or a principle, but the way grand strategy is operated is as a pattern of behavior. These authors focus on the pattern of behavior that emerged over time. In the third approach, a pattern of behavior is called a grand strategy, but the pattern must be the result of the deliberate or intentional actions of individual agents. Therefore, it comes from conscious actions. So, what we have seen is that grand plans specify ends and the means by which to achieve them in detail. Grand principles do the same in more general terms. Grand behavior is a pattern in the relative allocation of means to certain ends, regardless of whether that pattern is the result of a grand plan, a grand principle, or some other factor. Now let's have a look at some common characteristics of these concepts. First, they need to be long-term. This is the difference between these concepts and foreign policy, since a foreign policy can refer to a single decision or to the foreign policy of a country during a significant time. Second, it is holistic. It uses all the resources of a country. Third, we have the characteristic of importance. Grand strategy is concerned with actions to advance the state's most important interests. But what are their most important interests? In this, some authors defend that it is security. Others say it should be left open for questioning. That's all. Thank you for watching.